Socialists often claim that in a market economy, where the means of production are privately owned, this leads to greedy capitalists trying to maximize their profit by exploiting the workers. These socialists claim that in a centrally planned economy, where the means of production are owned by the state, capitalists are not trying to maximize their profit, and so the workers would be endowed with a greater distribution of wealth. But let's examine these claims a bit more closely. I think we can all agree that it is impossible for one person to have explicit knowledge of all the conditions of supply and demand for every good and service on the market. This is why prices exist. Even if a consumer may have no knowledge whatsoever about a given production process, the value of a good is always immediately communicated to him by the pricing system. Therefore, if everyone in the economy has knowledge of the prices, and since they are all trying to maximize their own utility, this will result in an efficient allocation of resources. Now, in a centrally planned socialist economy, where the means of production are owned by the state, you run into a problem. Because no person has explicit knowledge about the supply and demand of all resources, it would be impossible to allocate them all efficiently. Even if this socialist state was run by the most intelligent people in the world, they would still not be able to allocate resources as efficiently as in a market economy where these resources are privately owned. Take a pencil factory, for example. In a market economy, the owner of a pencil factory is trying to maximize his profit, so he will tend to buy wood, graphite, and rubber in the most efficient amounts. And if the pencil factory owner knows the prices for these materials, then he will be able to do so. Unless he's a complete idiot, he's obviously not going to buy way more wood than he can produce pencils with. Otherwise, he's quickly going to be out of business. Likewise, when the pencil factory owner sells his pencils to the retailer is trying to maximize her profit, so she's not going to buy way more pencils than she can reasonably sell. Therefore, when the consumer buys the pencils from the retailer, they may have no knowledge whatsoever about the whole pencil making process, but the true supply and demand of the pencil is communicated to the consumer by the price he pays. In a centrally planned economy, however, the pencil factory, the graphite mines, the rubber plantation, and the forestry are all owned by the state, rather than profit-maximizing firms. The state obviously does not have the same motivation to maximize their profits, and they do not have knowledge about the entire production process as a private owner would, so this is bound to result in an inefficient allocation of resources. The price that the consumer pays for pencils, assuming that prices exist at all in this socialist state, would necessarily be distorted and not reflect the true supply and demand for pencils. This problem of economic calculation in a socialist state was developed by the economist Ludwig von Mises in his 1949 book, Human Action. Mises stated that a socialist management of production would simply not know whether or not what it plans and executes is the most appropriate means to attain the ends sought. It will operate in the dark, as it were. It will squander the scarce factors of production, both material and human. Chaos and poverty for all will unavoidably result. So we can see that a socialist economy does not provide consumers with a greater distribution of wealth, but rather it distorts prices, causes inefficiency and waste, and lowers consumers' purchasing power by forcing them to pay more for goods and services. This is just one of the many reasons why socialism is inferior to capitalism, and is ultimately a concept doomed to failure.